Welcome back to Think Thrice Problem Solving. Today we're going to be solving a very fun problem. So this problem, let's take a look at it. It says that I have the first 100 natural numbers, 1 to 100, and I'm going to split them randomly into two groups with 50 numbers each. In the first group, the numbers are written in increasing order and denoted a sub 1 through a sub 50. And we can look down here, we're going to have a sub 1 is less than a sub 2 is less than a sub 3 all the way up to a sub 50. So a sub 50 is going to be our biggest number. Our second group, the numbers are written in decreasing order and denoted b sub 1 through b sub 50. So b sub 1 is going to be our biggest number, and it's going to be decreasing until we get to b sub 50. So if you'd like to try this out, go ahead and pause the video, take a few minutes to try to find out. But what we're trying to figure out is what the sum of the differences between the sub 1 terms plus the difference between a sub 2 minus b sub and b sub 2 plus, and then all the way up to the difference between a sub 50 and b sub 50. So this would be a one norm between the two vectors that we might create between these two sets of 50 numbers. Okay, so we'll go ahead and start working toward a solution here. So what I want you to be thinking is that to start off, if a is less than b, then the absolute value of a minus b is going to be b minus a, because b is the larger number and it's going to end up being positive. If a is greater than b, then the absolute value of a minus b is going to just be a minus b, because a is the larger of the two numbers. So we're going to have these two different sets as we go through. Okay, so the next thing I want you to think of is that I'm going to start out with the smallest a value. So this guy's very small. And I'm going to end up with my largest a value. For the b values, I'm starting off with my absolute biggest b value, and I'm going to go down to my absolute smallest b value. So unless the a set, a sub 1 through a sub 50, are all smaller than all of the b sub 1 through b 50s, then there's going to be some point in the middle where a sub n is less than b sub n, but the next number, a sub n plus 1, is bigger than b sub n plus 1. Okay, so that's what I kind of want to think about. I want to think about that transition point between the two. So if I think about that transition point, I'm going to have a sub 1 minus b sub 1 plus a sub 2 minus b sub 2 plus all the way up to a sub n, oops, this should be a sub 2, not an a sub n, minus b sub n. And all of those guys are just going to be equal to how we showed above, b1 minus a1 plus b2 minus a2 up to b sub n minus a sub n. So what I can see here is that I'm summing up all of my terms from I equals 1 to n of b sub I minus the sum of all of my a terms up to n. And that's just going to be the difference between those two sums. If we look to the right, we're going to have a sub n plus 1 is minus b sub n plus 1 plus, and so on, up until we get a sub 50 minus b sub 50. And we're going to have that total, and this total is going to be, now reversing, we're going to have a sub n plus 1 minus b sub n plus 1, going all the way over until we have a sub 50 minus b sub 50. Okay, and I can rewrite that as the sum from I equals n plus 1 up to 50 of a sub I minus the sum from j equals n plus 1 to 50 of b sub j. Okay, so I have these two different sums. Now the next thing I want you to think about is, let's say, so I have two sets of 50 numbers, and they go from 1 all the way up to 100. So if I look at the a's, so the a's are red. So let's look at our a set. Let's say 30 are bigger. So 30 numbers in A are bigger than 50. Okay? And what does that mean about our set B? That means that in set B, we have 20 numbers bigger than 50. Okay, so if the first 30 numbers of, if the set B has 20 numbers bigger than 50, then in our example up here, we would have the first 20 numbers, so a sub 1 up to b, or to a sub 20, would be smaller than b sub 1 through b sub 20. But then the next 30 digits of A would all be bigger than 50, and the next 30 digits of B would all be smaller. So we could see that those two would, everything from B sub n plus 1 to B sub 50 would then be less than 50. So if we look at the first n numbers in set B, so that's going to be the sum from I equals 1 to n of B sub I. And we look at the sum of the last n plus 1 to 50 elements of A sub I. Those guys are all going to equal the sum from k equals 1 to 50, or 51, to 100 of k. So what does that mean? That means that I'm just going to be, all of the elements in that set that I'm summing together are going to be the numbers 51 to 100. Okay? And I can calculate that as n times n plus 1 over 2. So that's going to be the sum of 100 digits. And then I can subtract potentially the smaller set. So this is going to be the sum of 51 to 100. But instead of taking the first 100, which you're familiar with, so you've probably seen this equation in the past, let's think about it in terms of here. So if I just want to calculate the sum of these 50 numbers, then I know the first number plus the last number is going to be the same as the second number, 52 plus 99, which is the same as 53 plus 98. And I can multiply that by 25 to get that total sum. And when I do that, I'm going to end up getting 3,775. Okay, so if I look at the smallest numbers from I equals 1 to n, and we pull that out of our equation, we go up here and we take what we're subtracting in each of these two equations. What we're subtracting is going to end up being all of the numbers that are less than 50. Okay, so we're going to be taking the sum from k equals 1 to 50 of k. So essentially, we're just doing the first 50 terms. So we can do the same thing we did above. So 1 plus 50 is 51. We can multiply that by the 25 pairs of numbers. And we're going to end up getting 1275. And now for the total, my sum that I'm calculating, I'm going to get 3,775 minus 1,275. So my answer is going to be 2,500. And that is what we were looking for. I appreciate you joining me on this problem today. Hopefully you were able to figure it out, but if you weren't, then maybe my solution helped you work through it. If you have a problem that you'd like to submit for me to work through, feel free and I'll take a look at it and you might see it in a future video. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. And no matter what, as you're doing problems, remember to always think thrice.